3, Hey guys, glad to be on the show.
Obviously, we saw not really a lot of close games, particularly in the one we're going to talk about, which is the Rockets just blowing out the Spurs, 127 to 99 last night. Um, Really a stunning display
Yeah, it's
from the Rockets. But I want to get
good.
after that game. What are your impressions of how each team performed and what that means for the rest of the series?
Well, if you look at the Rockets, they did exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted to push the tempo and wanted to shoot a lot of threes, and they pushed the tempo, forcing San Antonio to take a lot of quick shots, which they do not like to do. And then you look at the fact they made 22 threes. That's something that doesn't happen all the time in the playoffs. So the Rockets did what they had to do to win the game, while you look at Greg Popovich, he clearly stated they did what they did well. We didn't do play well. We have to play better.
Ian, obviously a comprehensive display from the Rockets. That was probably the most complete game we can expect out of them, especially when you're getting 20 points from Clint Capella, Trevor Ariza, guys like that. That's probably their best game, right?
Yeah, I would say that's probably going to be their it game. Looking at San Antonio, they got to do something to fix the lineup. I mean, you look at LaMarcus Aldridge. I believe he only had 7 points in the game
Yeah.
on 7 shots. He's Greg Popovich has to do either two things: get the ball more to Aldridge, or take him out of the lineup and move him to the bench.
Yeah, and that really is a pretty dramatic shift. I mean, if you'll remember last year in the playoffs, LaMarcus Aldridge kind of busted out with a couple 40-point displays.
Who else needs to step up on that team for you, Ian? Like, you've got Kawhi who's probably good for 20 every game, and then after that, it's Tony Parker giving you 10. Maybe you're getting 10 or 11 off the bench from somebody, but really no offensive firepower whatsoever in game one. Who else needs to step up for the Spurs besides LaMarcus Aldridge, obviously?
Looking at whoever they start at the five, if they either keep David Lee there or if they take Aldridge out, I would like them to see going with Pau Gasol there and seeing him step up, because they need to try and play more of a slow tempo pace. And you look at Aldridge, he's kind of that middle player, likes to play fast but can also slow it down. They need to put in a couple more guys that like to slow it down. And one of those guys who I think would be impactful for them would be Pau Gasol. So I think he's the main guy that has to step up for the Spurs.
For sure, for sure. And then on the other side, I mean, obviously we saw, like you mentioned, a historic showing from the Rockets, shooting wise. Even with those guys stepping up, is there enough firepower in San Antonio, or frankly, anywhere except for maybe Golden State, to contend with that kind of shooting display?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell just because we know Golden State's going to be the team to beat, and Houston has the firepower to keep up with them. It's just the fact that is Houston going to be consistent with and keep this firepower? Because we saw last round they struggled shooting the threes against OKC, and yet they still won the series in 5 games. So if they can keep this going, do I think they'll keep it going? Maybe another game or so, but I don't see them making over 23s every game this series.
We'll get into to Warriors Jazz, obviously, but is that performance from Houston? Is that scaring Golden State? Do you think they're taking notice? Do you think they care what's happening on the other side?
Right now, I don't think Golden State's really that worried about it. They got to focus on Utah, and that's going to be a tough team to play. A team that likes to slow it down, that plays great defense, and has great shot blocking now that Gobert's healthy, and also Favors coming off the bench. So right now, Golden State, they need to focus on their current matchup and not worry about what San Antonio's doing wrong and what Houston's doing right.
All right, Ian, we're gonna head out east now. Celtics and Wizards. Washington went up
Okay.
what 16 nothing to start that game, and it did not end well for them. Pretty much the rest of the game went went for Boston. What were your main takeaways there? Was the showing from Washington, the way they started, is that promising for the rest of the series, or was the folding and what happened with Markieff Morris sort of emblematic of what we can expect in future games from the Wizards?
Yeah, looking at Washington, I felt when Morris went down, that's where they lost all that firepower. You look at they only were up 5 at the half, and then they ended up losing the game. So definitely, I feel like they need Markieff Morris to have a chance to win this series because he's that vocal guy for them. Remember last series, he was just going off on Paul Millsap. Well, you need that kind of guy to do well in the playoffs. And if he's not playing well for them or not playing at all, then they're not going to get that far. They could probably get swept if he doesn't play anymore, even though he is going to play tonight from what I hear, so that'll be good for them. But if they try playing smaller, it's not going to work out for them.
Yeah, another big event that happened in that game obviously was Isaiah Thomas taking an unfortunate some contact to the face and losing a tooth, having it reinserted, which is a process I don't ever want to go through, especially if I'd have to return to a basketball game. But coming back and really playing well for the Celtics. Ian, if there was another, obviously Isaiah Thomas has had a pretty rough playoff situation. If you had to predict the next unfortunate thing that was going to happen to Isaiah Thomas, what would you say it would be?
That's kind of hard to tell just because he's had a lot of crazy things happen to him, unfortunate things happen to him with the death of his sister, the tooth. I mean, I don't know what would be next for him to happen. Maybe just loses a shoe and someone kicks it off the court. I mean, we've seen that happen before.
His luggage gets lost
I don't know
in D.C.
what would happen next unless he goes through another shooting slump. But I feel like what just happened to him right now, I just feel like there's not really nothing else that could happen unless for some reason that tooth that he got fixed falls out again.
Yeah.
Well, we could always see Isaiah Thomas being wheeled back onto the court in a wheelchair triumphantly.
Yes.
The way a la Paul Pierce.
The callback to Paul Pierce would be a really good bit.
He certainly had a rough time of it. Last question with that series. Al Horford, sort of much maligned, part of the Celtics rebounding woes, and all season. But he's come up big in the playoffs. Is he earning the contract that he was signed to in the offseason right now? Is this pretty much what Boston signed him for?
Yeah, they needed that one guy that needed to propel them in the playoffs, and getting a guy like Horford is doing that for them right now. Just look at the last game, 1 rebound shy from a triple-double. Those are numbers that you usually don't see from centers in the postseason. I mean, it's hard for them to do it in the regular season, but putting up numbers like that in the postseason, those are. I think the last guy that put up numbers like that was Hakeem Olajuwon. So he's definitely playing worth the money that they are paying him. And you look at a guy, he's a stretch 5 that can shoot the 3. He can rebound the ball. He can pass the ball. He can block shots for you. He's definitely earning his money, especially with it being the playoffs.
All right, great. Well, we really appreciate having you on, Ian. Before we let you go, I want to get a prediction out of you for both of these series. So Spurs Rockets, Celtics Wizards, who's taking them and in how many games?
Okay. The way the Spurs played yesterday, I was tempted to say 4 for Houston, but I think they're going to bounce back next game, and I think Houston's going to win Game 6 in Houston and move on to the conference finals. Looking at the East, I have some faith in Washington. They're my dark horse team in the East. I think that they end up upsetting the 1-seeded Celtics in 6 games as well.
Wow.
Ian, I got to keep you on for one more question. You are rocking a Steph Curry jersey right now, and last week we talked extensively about the show off the court, the press conference podium game. How much do you think we're going to see of Riley Curry in this next series against the Jazz? And I guess if you want to give us a prediction on Jazz Warriors, you can do that too.
Well, I hope we see Riley Curry every post game that the Warriors win, but I feel like whenever Curry has a big game, we'll see her. So I think tonight he'll have the big game. So I'm hoping we'll see Riley tonight. And then in that series, I like the Warriors to win that series. I'll give it 5 games. I think the Jazz will get one of the games at their place.
All right, thanks a lot. Ian, tell people where they can find you.
All right, you can find me on Twitter at sportsdude_603. You can follow me on Instagram, IanTheWatchdog_75.
Yeah. You got those underscores down, man. Thanks a lot for joining us. Really appreciate your time.
All right, thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, that was one of our guests. We got 2 for 2 on not having technical difficulties with our guests. This is great. If you have anything you want to chime in on Ian's insights and Ian's takes, Ian's predictions, Mitch's man bun, please let us know in the comments. Also, whether you think Paul Pierce is a first ballot lock Hall of Famer. What your best Paul Pierce memory was. And I guess, we should probably move on to the series that we didn't let him talk about.
Yeah, probably. I saw that.
Mercilessly.
I saw the Steph Curry jersey. I was like, oh.
Yeah, let's not.
We have 10 more minutes?
Cut that off. So they're starting their series tonight. How long do we think that's going to go? And what are you looking for in Warriors?
So first
Jazz?
I have to give myself a little bit of the pat on the back because I did call that the Jazz were going to win that series against. If you'll remember,
You did. Well,
I
do remember.
video evidence.
We
of
mentioned
me
it last
predicting
week.
that the Jazz would win. Against the Clippers, and I still really do love.
You deserve
this
your
Jazz team,
due.
obviously. Thank you. I just have to. When I get one right, I don't get them right often, but when I do get them right,
Ooh, we sucked at that.
okay, all right, elbow. Watch the elbow. But yeah, no, I mean this is.
Are they going to win one from the Warriors? Are your Jazz going to take one the way Ian said, or is this going to be a sweep? They're going to be on their way to 16-0.
I don't really have a lot of faith that the Jazz are going to put up all that much of a fight in this series. I generously I would give them a game, but realistically I would say we're probably going to see another 4 games out of Golden State, simply because they didn't really break a sweat against Portland in their 4-game sweep, and frankly seemed a little bit bored if you ask me. It's really interesting for me because the Jazz play this kind of unique, by today's standards, slow it down, grind it out offense. They run a lot of post play. They focus on Rudy Gobert a lot, and that might be enough to throw Golden State off for a little bit. Their kind of frenetic bombing play style, but realistically, I mean, there's just too much with Golden State. I love Utah, like we said, but you'd still be foolish to pick anyone else.
Yeah. You said that the Warriors seemed a little bit bored in their first round series, that the Jazz play a slow style. We're broadcasting from Brew Sports out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a city that is not always regaled as the most fun and exciting nightlife-centric town. Those of us who love the nightlife might disagree, but
I love the nightlife, but not for reasons that professional basketball players love the nightlife.
J.R. Smith would disagree in finding Milwaukee a good time, but the Warriors clearly do not enjoy Salt Lake City.
No,
you had a good time looking at or reading some of those comments this week, especially one in particular that the one response from the Jazz. After a couple of the Warriors players had said, there's nothing to do.
We would rather play in L.A.
We'd rather play in L.A. against the Clippers.
Don't want to go to Salt Lake City.
Matt Barnes, who I feel like that guy should probably not be going out anymore for various reasons.
He could stand to stay in. Just Netflix it. It's fine.
Right, exactly. And then Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, some of the more veteran members of the team were diplomatic in saying, we're not really looking to party. It's the playoffs. But one Jazz player in particular had a nice response to being told that basically Salt Lake City is boring.
So we've talked a lot about really entertaining kind of mini feuds that have gone on through the media and such.
Off court is the best.
And we were also talking before the show about how much I like Joe Ingles, who is the really the lunch pail, the blue collar man's blue collar man in the NBA. Despite the fact he's 6'8" and good at basketball.
He is Joe Sixpack.
He looks like a guy that would be tending bar around the corner from where I live.
Right. If there were bars in Salt Lake City.
yeah. But Joe Ingles, ever the opportunist, said, "Hey, listen, I know you guys don't really like Utah. It's kind of boring, whatever. But if you want to go to Vegas while you're here in Utah, I'll rent you a car and send you on your way." And I love that because if you're going to take somebody's statement and turn it on and say, "Yeah, go to Vegas in between games.
Right.
Come back, see how you play." That might be the Jazz's best opportunity to steal one if they just ship Durant and Matt Barnes and Draymond Green off to Vegas for a couple of days, and when they get back, see if they can still walk straight.
You said Draymond. I was going to say, who comes out worst if the worst if the Warriors spent the night in Vegas? It's got to be Draymond, right? I mean,
it's
we
probably
said Matt
Draymond,
Barnes, but
Matt Barnes. Andrew Bogut isn't there anymore. I bet you he would have partied real hard.
Iguodala is probably up there. He's coming in a little bleary-eyed.
Yeah. Probably any one of those guys. Some of their younger guys might get a little James Michael McAdoo is not making it out of the casino without losing a few stacks.
All right, quickly onto the court. Even though we don't think this series is going to need much to be done on the court, Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, they are back. Double alpha dogs. Both are going to be playing. We presume KD is mostly healthy at this point. If it comes to it, which one of those is your finisher? Which one of those is your killer? The guy that's taking that fourth quarter shot.
I mean, that's tough, and it's not tough because I don't like either one of them. It's tough because I would gladly take either one of them. I would, all things considered, I would probably still give it to Durant, who I still, at least in my head, give the weird offensive edge over, obviously, Steph Curry, amazing, one of the best three-point shooters of all time when it's all said and done. But I think if I had to pick one guy who had the ball in his hands, the shot clock running down, I'm still going to take Durant.
It also felt like during the season, especially when they were gelling, before Durant went down, that Steph had sort of accepted that role of yielding. He is the point guard positionally. He obviously can certainly end games and finish off teams from 40 feet away on his own. But he did seem to be in that role of I am the point guard. Kevin Durant is the guy that's getting this last shot and seemed to accept that. And we'll see, obviously, Steve Kerr is still out indefinitely in the playoffs, so it'll be Mike Brown drawing up those final plays.
Yeah.
And presumably, he doesn't really need to because those guys can figure it out on their own with three All-NBA players on the court. All right, the last series, we'll go back east. Cavs-Raptors, the Raptors who finished off our Bucks. That's again. That's two mentions for the Bucks. That's all we're allotted for in our show.
Baxter has his hand on the button. He's ready to shut this thing down if we say it the third time.
That's the kill switch. So let's talk about the fact that the Raptors didn't really look like the Raptors that were supposed to be Cavaliers challengers. They added Serge Ibaka and PJ Tucker to DeMar Carroll. These three supposed ostensible LeBron stoppers. Nobody really did much of that. He had 30 something and 10. Kyrie 20-something and 10 assists. Do you see the Raptors winning a game in this series? I know that's what we've been asking a little bit, but it's just sort of how interesting do we make the NBA playoffs, right? The Cavaliers and the Warriors are the ones that we are both seeing in the finals. Can the Raptors slow them down a little bit?
I mean, certainly, if there's one thing that we did learn about the Raptors in their first round matchup was there's plenty of variance there. I mean,
they can make adjustments, right?
They got blown out by the Bucks. Obviously, the Cavaliers are a little bit better than the Bucks, but I think they definitely have the ability to come back and play several competitive games and take one or two from Cleveland. I mean, while the LeBron stopping crew did not really show up in Game 1, you still got to believe that Serge Ibaka can totally still get hot, and he's been shooting three-pointers really well in this postseason. DeMar Carroll, I wish he was doing better. Obviously, he struggled a little bit. But still a good defender and somebody who can body up LeBron and at least slow him down. Obviously, you're never going to really stop LeBron, but you are going to be able to slow him down and at least make the Cavaliers depend on a Kevin Love outburst or Kyrie dominating a game. So I definitely do see this as competitive, but I also agree that the Cavaliers probably take the series.
Yeah, and one thing, we watched the Bucks-Raptors series more closely than the other ones, just obviously out of rooting interest. But one thing the Raptors very clearly did was they intentionally in Game 4 tried to muck it up, right? Like they uglied it up, they slowed it down. They inserted Norm Powell for Jonas Valanciunas in the starting lineup. Dwayne Casey made some really effective and effectual adjustments. So without asking you what adjustments they need to make, because we're only one game in, do you see some potential for the Raptors to do similarly against the Bucks in terms of just trying to ugly up the game a little bit? Would that work against a team that obviously has LeBron, that is the defending champion, has NBA Finals experience? Is that going to work, or do you have to just sort of, throw stuff at the wall and just sort of try to last as long as you can?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely going to be somewhat of a kind of a scramble drill as they do try to figure out optimal lineups. But one of the nice things that Toronto crafted very carefully in the offseason and at the trading deadline was some depth. I mean, they've got PJ Tucker coming off the bench. They've got Pat Patterson coming off the bench. You can have any configuration of DeRozan and Norm Powell, Ibaka, DeMar Carroll.
Corey Joseph looked like he can actually shoot the ball a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Corey Joseph is still a solid backup point guard for you. And so they do have plenty of options, and it's really just going to be about figuring out that combination that is most effective.
And lastly, with that series, most important, I think, for this show, especially given the name of the network, LeBron
Given our
James,
clear,
who
interests.
almost took a sip of some beer yesterday, which I'm guessing
Yeah.
would have broken the internet and all sort of like holier than thou
And
sports
like
reporters.
several NBA rules, presumably.
Right, yeah, which hopefully wouldn't have been enforced because who
Yeah.
cares? We are obviously beer guys.
Yes,
got a
that is
hop freak
correct.
from Milwaukee Brewing Company.
Yep.
What are you working on there?
I'm still repping Surly. Shout out Minneapolis.
That's right. LeBron said he was a red wine guy. Are we taking any points off of his defending of his MVP, NBA champion, potential best player of all time, NBA card?
No, man. I mean, all the best NBA players drink wine. Boris Diaw,
He's watching his
Greg
calories.
Popovich,
There you
LeBron
go.
James. Listen, this is just a murderer's row of the best NBA players. No, I mean, hey, man, listen, I'm never here to shame someone for what they drink. As someone who exclusively drank cheap beer for about 5 years.
I was going to say, I think
in and around
didn't we try to
college.
name a couple of wines last week, and we really struggled. Like
Oh,
Cabernet
yeah, I know.
Sauvignon,
Oh,
that was
geez.
about it. That's all we got.
I drank the wine out of the box a couple times. I mean, listen,
Yeah, it's in a jug
we've
or
all
a
been
box.
there. But yeah, no, a little bit more seriously, that was actually the moment where I thought, okay, Toronto's in real trouble.
Yeah.
When LeBron just decides he can clown on you, he can put on a skit in the middle of a game. Then you have to start being worried about, like, okay, well, he's putting up 30 points on us. He's not taking us that seriously.
Yeah.
Like, when he really turns it on, that's one of the reasons I'm saying Cavaliers are just going to win the series.
Yeah. All right. Well, meanwhile, speaking of that series, we've got one make or miss for you.
All right.
We're whittling down
bring
our
it back.
usual
We
make
got a
or miss
couple of-
lineup from about 12 to 15 to 1.
We're focusing. We're really
Yeah.
honing in here.
Because LeBron's coach, Tyronn Lue, had a very interesting thing to say earlier this week.
Sure did. He has a lot of good quotes, I'm finding out. You
Yeah.
know, you can
Yeah, we're-
talk about his coaching, but
Well, we are still waiting for Tyronn Lue to reveal the magic.
Find the documents.
Defensive blueprint, secret, confidential scheme that they're
deliver
going
the
to
holocron.
put on. But in the meantime, he has been crying a little bit about Cleveland's the head coaching situation for the Cavaliers being the toughest in the NBA. There are 3 All-NBA players on that team and the highest payroll in the history of the league. What do we make or miss of Tyronn Lue's claim that the coaching the Cavaliers is the toughest job in the NBA?
Listen, man. You wouldn't even have to coach if you don't want to. You have LeBron James on your team. He will tell everyone what to do, and they will listen to him, and you'll be just fine. I think coaching obviously, you have to take into consideration that there are personalities to deal with. You do have to manage the fact that you have LeBron James, who is a very assertive player on the court, and you have to balance that a little bit. The job might be a little bit more personality management than it is X's and O's. But like, come on, you can't tell me that. Oh no, I have to coach this finals contender every year, and that's the hardest job in the NBA. Like, no.
Yeah.
Brett Brown has the hardest job in the NBA because he has had to figure out what to do with that broken Sixers team.
Oh, yeah.
for
It's been a while
5
since
years.
we talked about the 76ers.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, by the time we started the show, they were already out of the picture. But, yeah, no, I get that it's tough, but, man, you're in a pretty good position, Tyronn Lue.
Yep. Like Paul Pierce, I would say you're speaking the truth on that one.
Thank you.
So, what do we got to do a prediction for that one too? I guess. Like, are we throwing any wins at the Raptors?
I will be generous and I will give the Raptors one victory.
One win.
I grant them one victory.
It's very nice.
But I do say that the Cavaliers take this series in 5 games.
Nice.
With that being said, I'm eager to watch it actually go to 7 and be really close.
Wow.
'Cause, you know.
Well, we are going to wrap this up. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Double Dribble.
As always.
Mitch, where can people find you on those internets?
Oh, on the internet, you can find me on Twitter at Mitch Vomhoff. You could probably find me on LinkedIn if you wanted to. You could find me on Facebook. Let's be friends on Facebook. I'm very friendly. All the
Did you get any
usual
endorsements
places.
last week, by the way?
Anyone
Anyone throw some endorsements your way?
Somebody that I don't know just endorsed me for bad sports takes.
Okay.
And that hurt a little bit, but that's
Lukewarm
fine.
takes. Tepid tepid takes.
Instagram, everywhere, it's just at Mitch Vomhoff. Find me. How about you, Jimmy?
You can find me at Jimmy Carlton88 on Twitter. You can read my sports writing at on onmwalkie.com or on the Sports Editor. And keep tuning in to Brew Sports for NBA shows, baseball shows,
I should shout out
football
that
shows.
that we have recently launched the written portion of Brew Sportsnet. So check out all of our great articles. We got some contributors already putting stuff in on brewsportsnet.com.
Yeah.
It'll all be there.
And please let us know what you think of Mitch's man bun.
Please.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Three,